Mhm. What's going on, everybody? Friday night with the bros, Ron and Nick. We're here to talk about some starts of the week, some breakouts, and some hot takes, and maybe just talk a little bit more football. Ron, how you doing
Yes,
tonight?
sir. I'm doing good as always. It's Friday. Friday night with the bros. Talking some football, doing some starts. You know how it is, man. How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a long week, so yeah, I need some football in my life, and
Don't we all?
just a couple beers, not a lot,
Yeah. Always drink responsibly.
of course.
Never drink and drive.
Yeah.
That's just dumb.
So speaking of which, what is your Friday night drink of choice?
Friday night drink of choice for myself. This is a Liftbridge Hop Dish IPA. I'm a big IPA guy.
Mmm.
Liftbridge is a brewery across the street from me, actually, in Stillwater. I shouldn't say across the street, but it's close enough where it pretty much can be. But it's good stuff. I like what Liftbridge has, and yeah, that's what I'm drinking. How about you?
I mean, Minnesota has like the best beers, so it's awesome.
Duh, of course.
Another Minnesota beer. I'm drinking Summit Saga IPA.
Mm.
Yeah, like so we should mention people make sure to drink responsible. Don't drink and drive. Don't have too many. Just be a responsible adult when it comes to drinking. We're only going to have a couple of them tonight while we talk some football. So yeah, to start things off,
Hmm.
we're gonna go over our starts of the week. Some people that are new to this, the way it works is we're gonna pick players that are not obvious. They're potential flexes or like waiver people that you can add. We try to get 3 out of 5 right every week. So what's considered a hit, I guess as we call it, is if quarterback gets over 20 points in a 6 point passing 6 point passing touchdown league. Running backs, wide receivers get 15. Tight ends and defenses get 10 points. So to start us off, Ron, how'd you do last week?
Not too hot last week. The QB start of the week was Caleb Williams. He was going against New England. He had been playing pretty well against some mediocre defenses. He only scored 6.3 points. I think for the rest of the year, I'm probably just going to avoid anybody on the Chicago offense. I know they just changed offensive coordinators this last week, but the guy that they promoted was I think the QB coach or the passing game coordinator for not Pittsburgh, excuse me, Carolina last year, which we know how good they did. So I'm not trusting anybody from them the rest of the year, but yeah. Caleb Williams versus New England, he was a miss with 6.3 points. My running back start of the week was Chuba Hubbard. He had 24.9 points. He had a really good game. My wide receiver start was Roma Dunze. Again, that Chicago offense is going to be avoided the rest of the year for me. He had 5.3 points. Jonnu Smith wasn't terrible. I thought Miami playing against Los Angeles, it would be a higher scoring game than it was. He was a miss with 7.5 points. And
It was
Detroit versus
close.
Houston, yeah, it was close. These my last two were close. Detroit versus Houston. Detroit got 8 points, which isn't bad for a defense, but I think our threshold is 10, which honestly for a defense might be a little high in like standard scoring leagues, but
It might be, but we shoot for the stars.
yeah, we like to make sure we're going for it all, but they got 8 points, not what we try to shoot for, but not terrible. But yeah, I was 1 for 5 last week. A little disappointing. I definitely thought Caleb and Rome were gonna have a bounce back game, and it didn't happen, and that bit me in the booty. How about you? How'd you do?
I was 3 for 5, which is what we shoot for. So Sam Darnold was a miss. He did not very good. Tyrone Tracy was a hit. He had like slightly over 15.2 I think in PPR. Ricky Pearsall had 17, so he was a hit. TJ Hawkinson, he had 15, which is over our threshold of 10. He was a hit. And then Chicago defense versus New England, he was a miss. So 3 for 5, I'll take it. Yeah. Do you want to start us off with the quarterback of the week?
Yeah, my quarterback start for this week is going to be Jameis Winston going against New Orleans. Cleveland is coming off of a bye, and this is a revenge game for Jameis, who is a former Saint. Mm-hmm. And I'm picking him because he's just one of the coolest guys in the NFL, one of the funniest guys, and I know off the field a lot of people love him just because he's just a good dude, but going against, like I said, his former team in the Saints. The Saints, I think, are throwing in the towel for the rest of the year. They just fired their head coach. They just traded Marshawn Lattimore, who is not only their best defensive back, but maybe the best defensive player on their team overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that leaves a huge hole for them in their secondary. New Orleans ranks 24th in points per game with 24.6, and they are 29th in pass yards per game with 244.6. I think Winston's going to go out trying to, everybody talks about revenge games. I think Winston's going to go out and try to prove a point because he never really got a chance to start in New Orleans while he was there.
Which is a shame.
And, I think it's funny you see all these quarterbacks who were starters in the league kind of get older and come back and start playing well. Like we kind of saw it with Dalton with a game or two this year, Flacco. And we did see Winston have a really good game in his first start and then kind of not have a very good game. I think he bounces back this week and has a pretty good game against his former team, who's not. New Orleans just isn't good this year, and I think he's going to have a pretty good game. So, yeah, Jameis Winston, my quarterback start of the week.
I like it. I got a few wide receivers for him, so I'd be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
My quarterback for this week is Russell Wilson against the Baltimore Ravens. Plain and simple, they're one of the worst pass defenses in the league. They give up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks at 22.7 points in 4-point passing touchdown leagues. They give up the most passing yards. In 10 games, the Ravens have only had 6 interceptions. And then last week, Russell Wilson had a big game, 25 points, only threw for 195 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns and only 1 pick. So pretty much anybody who plays against the Ravens, you should just start because their pass defense is terrible. I got him as a low QB1, high QB2. So, yeah, Russ Wilson, start him up. Who is your running back for the week?
My running back start of the week this week is Travis Etienne Jr. versus Detroit. A year ago today, this would probably be a no-brainer. He has been banged up this year, kind of losing his starting gig to Tank Bigsby, who has been eating into his touches quite a bit this year. But Bigsby is out this week, so Travis Etienne is going to get all the touches to himself. He'll probably see a lot of volume. He does not have the best matchup. Detroit is pretty good against the run so far this year. But I think that, going up against Detroit has one of the best offenses in the league. They're going to put up points, and Jacksonville, if they are going to try to win this game, are going to need to pass a lot. And I think Etienne could see a lot of work catching the ball out of the backfield, especially with Mac Jones. He's probably going to be looking for a little safety valve coming out of the backfield there with Etienne. And on top of that, if they do get down to the goal line, Detroit does give up a rushing touchdown per game on average so far this year. So if they do get close, within 5 yards of a touchdown, good chance that Etienne is going to get a couple rushes within the 5-yard line and has a good chance of scoring a touchdown. But yeah, I think he's going to get a lot. He's going to be the bell cow of this game. I think he's going to get a lot of touches, and typically a lot of touches or a lot of volume equals some good fantasy games, whether you're efficient or not. So my running back start of the week is Travis Etienne versus Detroit.
Yeah.
How about you? Who is your? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say he was almost my start of the week, and then I saw you had him, so
Yeah.
I couldn't pick him anymore. My start of the week is Kareem Hunt against the Buffalo Bills. In a 0.5-point PPR setting, the Bills give up the second most fantasy points to running backs at 26 points per game. They're a middle-of-the-pack run defense. I think they're ranked 15th at 123 yards per game. But his last 5 games for Kareem Hunt has been 18, 22, 13, 18, and 17 points in PPR. And last week he had 7 catches. It should be a high-scoring game, so I expect him to be more active in the passing game, especially since Kansas City does not have great wide receivers. Start Kareem Hunt versus the Buffalo Bills this week.
Yeah, I heard a stat this morning that since the week they signed him, he's averaging the most touches per game with like 22 touches per game for running backs.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty
ton of
interesting.
volume. And even when Pacheco comes back, like he could be seeing some usage.
Yeah, I think Pacheco's definitely going to be rusty, and he'll probably get spelled quite a bit. They might even see a 50-50 split as soon as he comes back, but we'll see. Moving on to wide receiver start of the week. My wide receiver start of the week is Courtland Sutton versus Atlanta. He has been pretty hot the last 3 weeks, and he will look to continue that against Atlanta. They are ranked 24th in pass yards per game, and they are dead last in sack percentage, which I think is a great stat to consider. Bo Nix is a pretty elusive quarterback. We know he's a good runner. He's really athletic. I think he is going to have a ton of time to throw in this game against an Atlanta team that has trouble getting to the quarterback. Courtland Sutton's his number 1 wide receiver, and I think it's not going to be too difficult for him to get open and find some open space against this Atlanta defense that is currently giving up the 10th most points to wide receivers per game at 28.6. I think a lot of the Atlanta defensive backs are a little undersized too. Courtland Sutton's a bigger wide receiver, so even if they get into the red zone, Courtland's the kind of guy where you can just throw up a rebound and he's going to go get it. So I do think he'll probably end up scoring a touchdown this game. And Atlanta's got a really good offense. Denver's probably going to need to throw the ball to keep up. Kirk Cousins has been cooking with London, Mooney, Bijan, and Pitts. So I think Courtland Sutton goes out and has a big game this week against Atlanta.
Yeah, he was dropped in our league a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure Cupper is kicking himself in the butt now.
Yeah, there was that one game where he didn't have a catch, and ever since then he's been pretty hot as a really good like I'd say mid wide receiver too.
Yeah.
So far, but yeah. I think he's going to go out and probably have one of his best games of the season, maybe his best game of the season.
I believe it. So my start of the week at wide receiver is Calvin Ridley versus the Minnesota Vikings. He's been hot lately. Last 3 games, he's had 22, 12, and 25 points. And he's going up against a defense that has given up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers at 32.2 points per game. That is in half-point PPR, by the way. Minnesota gives up the 7th most passing yards at 232 yards. And they have one of the worst red zone defenses, allowing a touchdown 63.6% of the time once they're inside the 20. There's nobody else for Will Levis to throw to. So Ridley should just get a ton of targets, and they're going to be down most of the game. So Ridley should get just his usage rate should be through the roof. Yeah, start Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely been trying to get him the ball any way possible, whether it's running the ball or short passes. Not just he's been a good deep threat in his career, but I think they've been doing a good job of just trying to get the ball in his hands and let him do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
So my tight end start of the week this week, I picked Dawson Knox versus Kansas City. Opportunity is knocking for Knox this week as he's going to be thrust into the starting role with Kincaid out. Kansas City is giving up the second most fantasy points per week to tight ends at 13.1 points per game. And at this point in this year, you're getting 13 points out of your tight end. That's a win. It's been a pretty down year for tight ends overall. I also think Keon Coleman's also been ruled out already. I think Knox is going to be a big target in the short and intermediate range for Allen. He's always been a really good red zone target for him as well. Before they drafted Kincaid last year, he was catching like 6, 7, 8 touchdowns a season. It was a favorite target for Allen in the red zone, and I think with Kincaid and Coleman out, who are they're both big-bodied guys and good red zone targets. I think with them out, if they get down there and they're looking to pass the ball, that Knox could be a hot target for Allen this week, especially since KC can't cover tight ends anyway. So Dawson Knox versus Kansas City is my tight end start of the week.
Yeah, I mean, pretty simple. The opportunity is going to be there, and he's the veteran guy. Josh Allen should be able to rely on him.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to see what he can do. My tight end start of the week is Jonnu Smith versus the Las Vegas Raiders. He hasn't been amazing this year, but he's been seeing targets. So the last 5 games, he's had 8, 7, 6, 6, and 4 targets. And he could easily see 5 targets again this week. The Raiders give up the 5th most fantasy points in a half point per reception league. The Raiders give up 12.3 points per game. They only give up 195 yards, but they've still given up 15 passing touchdowns in 9 games. So there's a great chance he'll get a lot of targets. He'll probably only get 50 to 60 yards, but I'd be willing to bet money that he scores a touchdown this week. So, yeah, start Jonnu Smith against the Raiders.
Yeah, we like touchdowns.
Of course. Hey, real quick, can we get a skull? I want to do a skull.
The guy wants to do a skull.
I want to do a skull chant. Who is the defense that you're going to start this week?
My defensive start of the week is the Los Angeles Rams versus New England. Defensive teams playing against the Patriots this year are averaging 9 points a game. New England's got a rookie quarterback. Don't really have a lot of great skill position players to speak of either. I think even with Drake May, New England has been a pretty underwhelming offense as a whole so far this season. I also really like the Rams pass rush. They got Byron Young and Jared Verse, who have been really good so far this year. I think that pass rush is going to give May trouble, and that I think he's going to have to be getting the ball out quicker than he wants to. And seeing as he's a rookie, not getting to go through his progressions, having to get the ball out quick. I think that's going to lead to bad decisions and turnovers. I know May is a pretty athletic quarterback. He might be able to get out of some of those broken pockets, but the Rams have a pretty athletic defensive line, and I think they're going to give him trouble. I think, like I said, the quick pass rush is going to lead to bad decisions, hopefully some turnovers for the Rams, and I think the Rams are going to go in and dominate this game, even though it is in New England. I think they're going to have a good game against New England. So my defensive start is the Los Angeles Rams versus New England.
I like it. The defense, the defense that I chose is the Lions going against the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has already been ruled out, and Detroit's actually been one of the better defenses this year.
Mm-hmm.
If as far as sacks, so where was it? So Detroit has had 24 sacks, and in the last 6 games, 4 of those games they've had 3 or more sacks. They are tied for second in interceptions with 13, and they just force a lot of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
But last week for Mac Jones going up against the Vikings, he was sacked 3 times and threw 2 interceptions. So he's prone to turning the ball over. And there's a great chance that Detroit is up early, forcing Mac Jones to throw. And we know how that goes. So, good. Start Detroit Lions going against the Jaguars. But
yeah, I think I picked Detroit defense a week too early.
They had a good game last week.
Yeah, they did. And Houston hasn't been playing well, but whatever. Should have picked Houston defense, I guess.
I suppose.
Thanks a lot, Jared Goff.
Right. Let's get on to our breakouts. Real quick, we can discuss how we did last week. I'll start us off.
Yeah.
Bryce Young last week he was bad. I had him breaking out against the Giants, and I think he had like 9 points. So that was a miss. Who was your breakout for last week?
Mine was Rico Dowdle. Not much to say there. Cowboys aren't going to be very good the rest of the year, and I thought they would use him a lot more with Cooper Rush starting. But Philly's hot, man. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL. And yeah. Rico Dowdle's not that good of a player. I mean, he's not that good of a running back. And he had a good week the week before. I thought he would do even better, which was kind of like my breakout part of it.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to stay hot, and he didn't. It's going to be, besides CeeDee Lamb, who will probably see a lot of work, it's going to be hard to trust anybody on that Dallas offense moving forward.
I did forget to mention that a definition of our breakouts are players that have not done anything yet and have a great game, or players that are playing good and they just have a monster game. So most time it'll probably be a player that hasn't done much, finally has a good game. My breakout for Week 11, though, is Pat Freiermuth. Goes along with my quarterback start of the week of Russell Wilson, playing against really bad defense. They give up the ninth most fantasy points to tight ends. It's another game with him and Russell Wilson playing together. Hopefully they can create more rapport, and there's a good chance that it is a close game. So I like Pat Freiermuth getting 15-plus points this week. Who was your breakout?
Yeah.
Week 11.
My breakout is also a tight end, rookie tight end. It's A.J. Barner of the Seattle Seahawks going against San Francisco. He's shown some promise. He's a very athletic tight end, big guy. And with Noah Fan out this week, and going up against a San Francisco team that's got McCaffrey back now and could probably be putting up some points pretty early, I think Barner's going to see some good volume in the middle of the field. San Francisco has one of the best coverage linebackers and Fred Warner. But I do think that with the amount of times they're probably going to need to pass, that Barner could see a good game. I think he could get some good volume, and I think he could, really help move the ball down the field, short intermediate routes, and he's a big dude. He's a really good. He's a rookie, like I said, but he could potentially end up being a really good red zone target. And yeah, he hasn't really done much so far this year. So
no, he had one decent game,
realistically,
but it wasn't great.
realistically, if he does anything, it's a breakout. So that's kind of why I had mentioned to you earlier that I was really reaching in my bag with this one, just because he's kind of, he's mostly been a backup player this year so far. So I think with him being the starter now, could end up being beneficial to him, and maybe he has a breakout game. So.
I mean, we are 11 weeks into the season, so finding a breakout and actually hitting on it is very hard.
Right.
Because if they haven't done anything yet, the likelihood of them doing it again is just not great.
Agreed.
But let's get on to our hot takes. So this is our segment. It's just based on things that are very unlikely, but it's just for fun. We're just we're digging deep on these. So, for instance, last week, my hot take was Denver upsets Kansas City 35-32. I wasn't right, but you never know. My other hot take, I was completely wrong on. Daniel Jones throws for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and another score on the ground. Finishes as a top 5 quarterback. Way off. I had the rushing touchdown, but I was off the other two. But it's a hot take, so it's more so like, hey, if we got it right, we got it right. Cool. If not, it was unlikely. So, what was your hot takes for last week?
I was kind of right on both of mine. I said James Conner was going to run for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure let me double check.
He had
Sorry.
33 rushing yards.
I should have. I always hate with these hot takes. I definitely should have done 150 total yards. That's typically what I do for these because it leaves a little more room.
A little wiggle room.
A little more wiggle room. Because he had a good game.
He had 113 total yards.
113 total yards and a touchdown. Yeah. So I said runs. I probably should have said total. He was close to that. He did score a touchdown, so it not totally what I said was going to happen, but he still had a great game. I think it was actually his best game, fantasy game of the year so far.
As far as fantasy points, you were only 5 points off, so
that's
not bad.
Right, and then my second one was Christian McCaffrey. His first game back was going to go for 100 total yards and a touchdown,
which he did. He didn't get the touchdown, but he had 100.
He didn't get the touchdown, but he did have 100 total yards. So yeah, I'd say it was.
I'd say 1 for 2.
Pretty close. Pretty close. Mm-hmm. So not terrible, but like you said, these are hot takes. These are kind of outlandish things that we think are going to happen, and so it's always nice to be kind of close on something, especially since my starts of the week were trash.
You gotta make up for it.
They were not good. So everybody feel bad for me.
Yeah. Let's get on to our hot takes this week. So my first hot take is Chicago upsets Green Bay, being a 5.5 point underdog. I think they're going to beat them 23-17. They just fired their offensive coordinator. This is very outlandish because he's been just trash all year. Caleb Williams throws for 250 yards and 2 total touchdowns. No picks. So that's my first one. My second one is J.K. Dobbins goes off for, we'll say, 150 total yards and 2 total touchdowns against the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe not a huge hot take because he's actually been good, but that's like a pop-off game. So, yeah.
And you and I just made a trade where you traded me J.K. Dobbins, so I love that, and I really hope that he does that because that would be huge for me. Because the team that you traded him to in that league for me, I have Connor, Tyrone Tracy, and Chuba Hubbard all on buys. So
Yeah,
my
you
other
need a
three
running back
starting running backs are on
bad.
buy, and I definitely need a big performance from him. So if he goes off for 150 and 2, hallelujah. Love it.
What's your hot takes?
My first one is Anthony Richardson and the Colts beat the New York Jets in East Rutherford, New Jersey, 24-17. Not a huge upset by any means, even though I'm pretty sure I saw that the Jets were favored by like 7 points, which
Jets are favored by 4.
4. Okay, it was a different game that I saw most of, but still favored by 4. The Jets haven't been good this year, so kind of crazy to think that they're 4-point favorites against the Colts, who have been playing pretty decently. But Richardson, it's his first game back after a 2-game absence. With Flacco starting, I think Richardson has over 250 total yards, passing and rushing, and 3 total touchdowns. I think he's going to have something to prove. I think he's definitely going to be looking to bounce back in a big way. And the Jets just got torched by Kyler Murray last weekend.
Yeah.
So it's a good bounce back spot for Richardson. I think he can. I think if he needs to prove that he belongs in this league and belongs as a starter, that he needs to go do something against his team. My second hot take is Pittsburgh upsetting Baltimore in a shootout, 38-35. Not like a huge upset, but I think it could be considered an upset because Baltimore, I think, has been a Super Bowl favorite for almost everybody, like all year. You got Lamar Jackson playing as a MVP candidate again. He's probably having his best statistical year so far as a starter in the NFL. And I think they're favored by 3 or 4 points.
I saw 3.
If you got 3, yeah. So Pittsburgh is the underdog in this game. I think they're playing in Baltimore, but I have to double check. It's a divisional rivalry, and yeah, I think Pittsburgh defense is a lot better than Baltimore's this year. I think if anybody's going to shut down Lamar, it's going to be Pittsburgh. But yeah, I think this will probably be one of the games of the week. Honestly, I can't believe this game didn't get flexed. Because right now you got Houston, Dallas Monday night, and I think Cincinnati, Los Angeles on Sunday night. Won't be a bad game. But yeah, this is Pittsburgh and Baltimore is probably going to be the game of the weekend. I think it's going to be a great game. But I think Pittsburgh, my hot take is Pittsburgh upsetting Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm okay with it because I picked 2 players from Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
I think that's it for the night. So, like always, everyone, if you like our content, please like and subscribe. Whenever you subscribe, you'll get notifications whenever we go live or post videos. Right now, we are actually live on TikTok, which is on the bottom right. Our other social medias, we got Discord, Twitch, X, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Anytime you comment on our videos, whether it's a TikTok post, our YouTube video, or in our Discord, we will answer them in either the next video or we'll comment on it. So if you got start, sit, trade questions, strategy questions, anything fantasy football related, we will answer them as soon as we can. We have 2 people, so we can comment twice as fast as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. But yeah, so enjoy your weekend, everyone, and we will be live Monday night again. Peace.